So I'm gonna go just show you guys my thought process there and why I didn't actually take a short off of that. Okay, so let's go back. I think I might have deleted this, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. I can draw it in again quickly. So we had a divergence. I took the first one on Bitcoin, but then obviously when I seen the structure flip back, that was it for me. I ended up putting myself to break even, and I got taken out at break even, which is no problem. I'm willing to try it. If it's a free trade, it's a free trade, whatever. But the first idea that I had, obviously, we know was basically, looking at this, structure broke down, deviated the high over here, and then it came down, it broke back up again, and then broke back down again on the retest here, right? But then structure obviously coming back and doing its thing here was a bad sign. First of all, that shouldn't have taken so long if this was a distribution to hold. Either way, I thought, okay, well maybe it's a model one. One, two, one tap, two tap, three taps, you're out. We're getting one of those right here. However, we still had the range high above, the bigger range high above. Now, in this move here, we have run that bigger range high, but here's the interesting bit. So looking at ETH, let's do timestamps here. So on that high on Bitcoin was 1400, right? Over on ETH, where's 1400 at? Right here. So ETH was all the way midway up the range, a little bit past the midway up the range. If that's your range high and that's your range low, it wasn't back up to here like Bitcoin was at that time, right? So looking at that, I was like, okay, that's not really what I would optimally like. I don't really want to see that, but if we were to break down here on ETH and Bitcoin broke down here, coming back inside its range at the same time, that would have been a try for me, no problem. I would have shorted that, no issue at all. Now you only had 1 minute structure here leading up. You had a higher high, a higher low, a higher high, and a slight lower low. But watch this. You go to the 2 minute time frame, it doesn't look like anything. It just looks like a higher low for a higher high and a range high back test. That's a big no-no. You don't want to see that. You want it closing back within the range for starters. That's why I didn't say, hey guys, I'm short. Right? Now, look at the progression here though. This is the deal breaker for me. Let's go back with the replay. It's not the replay button, I guess. Where's that replay button? Right here. Let's go to about right here. So we know the 1400 timestamp. Now look at this. If you've seen this on ETH, you're obviously watching your highs and lows. You know that you now have a confirmed higher low right here, and we know that this is now the higher high of the move. So what do? Right? Obviously, A, you wait for this to break down, you wait for Bitcoin to break down at the same time, giving you that entry criteria that you're looking for. Or B, you wait and see, are we going to deviate that high and come back within, or are we going to close above? If we close above, what does that mean? Well, that means that ETH is likely going to what? Come up to here. And we know if ETH goes from here to here, what's going to happen with Bitcoin? Is it going to go down? It's going to go up. It's going to follow. ETH's going to lead the show, so to speak. And that's what we ended up getting. So watch the playthrough. That's not a deviation. That's a close above the local range high. So that does matter, right? So that's a big, big, big no-no for me. And because we had that, as you can see, what was the next outcome? Well, we went higher. We deviated the high. Again, we couldn't break structure. And then we went higher again. So what's happening? Again, it's leading. It's pulling Bitcoin up here, right? And as you can see, you can translate that over pretty dang easily. So now what I have to do is I'm going to either A, have to wait for a better structure break. I'm not playing this shit structure. This is too tight and choppy for me. Like if I get a break below here, I'm going to need a reconfirm in order to take a trade. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Alternatively, maybe we are destined to come into this supply zone after all, and maybe we get some sort of range up here, or we get a bigger structure break up here. If I see that, where's my tools at? No, they're all the way down here. If we get that, well, then I'll entertain a trade. But I'm not going to take the first 1 minute break that I see now because it's highly counter trend trade to the local day. The whole day has been up and up only. So why would you try to take your first 1 minute break here when we're not even in the range anymore? No, we're not going to do that, right? That's silly. So we're going to wait for something better. So in my opinion, 2 to 3 to 5 would be a more optimal time frame. Maybe even 10, 15 if you're really not sure. If you really don't trust what you see, then wait for a bigger break. But if we start coming up here and we get that lower time frame break, don't forget, even if we get that, it might be a situation where we put in a range high and a range low, and then we come back up, take out the high, and then come down. If it is going to come down at all from here. We don't even know, right? This could still blast straight through. You're looking at USDT DOM, got it inverted right now. Remember, inverse correlation. Looking at the dominance chart, there's demand below, but we haven't quite hit it yet. This is basically all we have left to hit. Technically, structure has flipped from left to right on the dominance, but it could still manipulate, I suppose. Really, the only thing that we have going for us here for any kind of a bearish scenario to come back to the lows is a hold here, in my opinion, or an SFP of this level. If we do either or on the dominant, something like this, and then come up back within the range, or something like this, and then come back within the range, that's all I see personally for a chance at this idea working right here, where we come in and then we come all the way back down to this low again. Otherwise, again, if you start breaking the only resistance that's available above you, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to go to the next one, and then by the time you go to the next one, you're going to break more structure. You know, this whole move down in Bitcoin hasn't really broken any significant structure. Yes, it broke lower time frame structure, I'm sure, okay, in this last move here, but it's not breaking the swing structure. As of now, swing structure breaks right here. But you only have one zone here that can protect it, and one more zone right here that can protect it, right? So we can draw both of those in. We can draw both in, and that's all we have. That's literally it. I say this is the more critical level because if you go to the 2 hour, watch, you draw your 2 hour structure in. I'm not used to having this down here, by the way. I'm on my MacBook. It's easier to hide it down here. The toolbar, I mean. And drawing your 2 hour structure in, actually, that wouldn't even be the main structure pull. It would be more like a 1 hour, maybe. Let's see. Actually, that would be the high right here. That would be the high right there. I think the reason why I'm picking this, though, is because really, what's the difference between picking this high and that high? You know, it's already mitigated, whereas if this supply zone fails, you're taking this high anyway. That was my thinking process earlier. You could label this one, though. It doesn't really matter. If we start closing above the 1 hour lower high, we're going to head into this supply. Now, could it just SFP into it and then come all the way back down? Absolutely. Whereas this ends up being some kind of like major range low, and this ends up being the major range high, or this ends up being your range high, and we start a bigger range here, where we take weeks and weeks and weeks to break up from, giving the market time to reaccumulate, right? Because this doesn't show like this right here doesn't show a traditional sign of reaccumulation. However, that being said, we've had it before where we put in these weird lows and still blast it up anyway. I'm just trying to remember the last one. Yeah, there's one right here. Here's one right here. Look, 74 or 75K. You had that. Now, mind you, there may have been some sort of divergence between these lows on ETH. I don't know. I'm not checking for this example. But also keep in mind, you had 1, 2, 3 as a whole here, and that 1, 2, 3 was part of a bigger range. Do we have that now on BTC? I don't know. We're going to find out together. Could it be classified as that? I see a 1, 2. But I guess if you were on Coinbase, it may look a little different. Let's check Coinbase. This is the index. I mean, I guess you could, yeah, even on the index, you have 1 drive, you have 2 drives, and 3 drives. I mean, it could be. It does look fairly similar to that move. I'm not going to lie. It does look fairly similar. So instead of guessing, why don't we wait to see what happens in this supply zone here or this supply zone here? Obviously, if we start closing above here, there's a damn good chance we're going to rotate back up to these highs, in my opinion. And I think at that point, this is clearly the low. So you would focus on swing longs. If you get any kind of back test, it would be a swing long back test for another shot at these highs, or at least to a fair value gap fill. And that's kind of where I'm thinking right now, right? That's the only way that I'm really willing to look at this is, hey, we're in a make or break zone. We're about to hit a make or break zone. We need to wait to see what happens in here, right? And here's your make or break zone. We're approaching it, and we're probably going to hit it. I don't think we come all the way up here not to hit it. It might take a while to do so, but you're better off being more careful in these more critical areas in the market because you can get chopped up pretty easily in here, right? So again, go with your mid time frame breaks if you can to justify the entry, show the follow through. Obviously, we know that coming back within the range plus your structure break, aka something like that, is going to look way better than not having that. Do you know what I mean? Or something like this inside a supply is going to look way better than having just a simple like 5-minute break on its own, right? Because we know distributions happen all the time, and we know they happen like this all the time, where it may be sometimes it even does this, where it'll break down, still take out the high, and then go down, right? So people short it here, they get trapped, and then it comes back and takes them out, and then does that, right? So we'll have to see. That's where my thinking process is right now. So I'm not going to try fading the move up. I think that's silly, right? There's no point in trying now. Now that this local range has been invalidated from a shorting standpoint. We just didn't have what we needed to be able to justify a short. There was that first initial entry, yeah, sure, but it failed, right? That's the thing, it failed. That's why I told you guys, like, hey, that's it. Like, I'm de-risking. If I get taken out, I get taken out. I'll look for another trade, but I'm not going to force one if I don't see the opportunity to force one or to get into one. I mean, and we didn't get it. So now it's just a matter of waiting patiently, and hopefully we have a better answer by the time Asia opens this evening. Just want to share that with you guys, my thought process right now. Hope that helps. I do really suggest, because of the big variations between Bitcoin and ETH, I would highly suggest keeping track of both here, and USDT dominance, of course. Look at that, we just hit demand on dominance, so it's gonna be interesting.